Hey everyone, so in today's lab video, I'm just going to be walking through the first lab assignment and everything you need to know about SPSS in order to complete the first lab assignment. So this assignment goes by your using SPSS textbook. It's Unit 2, Lessons 7 through 11. So you should definitely reference these lessons, for some more detail. But I'm just literally showing you how to actually do the various steps in SPSS and what it really looks like. So I've outlined everything you're going to need to do. The tasks are pretty straightforward. So, you're going to be creating a data file with just some sample data and a few variables. So nothing too difficult. You're going to add variable labels and value labels. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then just for practice, adding an additional variable and naming it. There are also some just like practice, like copying and pasting in SPSS. I have no way to actually verify this, so it's really just practice. None of your points will come from this. And then you're going to be exporting the output file to a PDF, saving your work and exiting SPSS. And then also we're going to practice with exporting an SPSS file into Excel, as well as importing an Excel file into SPSS. And then finally, we're going to practice some validation rules. So using them in SPSS is basically a way to check your data for any glaring issues, and that will make more sense when we get there. So this will be due September 13th. And then I have actually what all you need to upload in order for me to grade your assignment and just ensure you did everything. So there are quite a few file uploads, and I've outlined those specifically here. So while there are a lot of file uploads, what you actually have to do for each step is, I would say pretty straightforward, and I'm going to show you how to do everything. So it looks like maybe a lot, but I promise it's pretty simple. And, if you have any questions, you can come to office hours or feel free to reach out to me. Okay, so this, the details about the first lab assignment, as you can see here, I've already posted. So if you just go to home, it's down towards the bottom in laboratory assignments. So that's where you'll find it. Okay, so I'm gonna close this. So right now I have my data set open in SPSS. So, you're going to create your own data set. So whenever you open SPSS, it will give you an option to just create a new data set. Or if you already have it open, you can just hit new, file, new, and then data. And that will also open up a new data set. So either way. So first things first, you're going to need to create 10 cases of data. So basically 10 participants, which is also called cases in SPSS, which just refers to kind of the participant itself, which we typically use the ID column or the ID variable to identify which case it is. So this number has no meaning outside of this is just the identifier for this person's data, if that makes sense. So all of this is associated with, case one. So you're going to need to just, enter your own data. So you need 5 variables to start with. So you need your ID variable, gender, test 1, test 2, test 3. So these are the 5 that you're starting out with. So for ID number, I just recommend starting at 1 and just numbering 1 through 10. All of this, as far as the test scores, you can put whatever you want here. It's not real data. We're not doing any real analysis with this. So just put whatever you would like here in terms of test scores. And then gender should be coded as either a 0 or a 1. Essentially, we do this a lot in research to create numbered categories for a categorical variable. So the numbers themselves don't mean anything in terms of the categories they relate to, but they help us sort the data. So yeah, you need to start out with 10 cases and 5 variables. So right now we are in the data view of SPSS. You can see this down here. If we switch to the variable view, after you've, created your variables, so once you just start entering data somewhere, it will automatically create a new variable for you. If you don't assign it a name, it will just automatically generate this variable name, like the var 000 whatever number. So once you start entering your data per se, you can come to the variable view and start putting in the names of the variables. So this is where you name them. And then also a part of this assignment, you want to add a label. So for this data set, obviously it's very small, it's very simple, but in general, when working with data, we always recommend, sometimes you'll get a lot of different variables in here, sometimes looking at very similar things. So sometimes it helps to add some additional clarification. Like I said, for these variables, it's rather obvious what we're talking about. So ID refers to participant ID, gender refers to gender, test 1, test score 1. That's very intuitive, but we still need to get in the practice of doing this because, like I said, with the more variables you have, the more complicated it gets, the harder it is to find maybe a specific variable of interest. So these labels are really important. So best practice is to always add a label clarifying what the variable is referring to. In addition to the labels, sometimes you also need to add labels to your values, and this in particular for any sort of categorical variable where you're assigning numbers to different categories that is not obvious, or even if it seems obvious, you should still add the value labels, because later on when you're analyzing, sometimes from the time that you're first dealing with the data, from the time you analyze and then really look at the results to write them up, there's a lot of time in between them sometimes. Or even if there's not, sometimes you just forget, oh, what did I assign as a 0? What did a 0 mean? And again, in gender, when we're only dealing with these two options in this instance for just this practice data, it's obviously not hard to decipher what means what, but in general what you should do is add your value labels. So if I click on this, these 3 dots come up, and what I will do is I can just remove these so I can show you how I do it from the beginning. So I would just put in the numerical value that's represented in the data and then add the label. So for me, men are going to be coded as a 0, and then 1 is going to be for women. So what I did there was just, again, add the numerical value, add the corresponding label, hit add. Once I've added my value labels, hit OK. And this also helps because later on when you're doing analyses in your output table, it will not just show you gender as 0 or 1. It will add in the value labels for you, so you don't have to constantly be thinking, okay, 0 is men, 1 is women. So the output will then be labeled for you if you add these values in. So SPSS is really helpful in that way of incorporating your labels into the output to help make it more readable. Okay, so after you've added the value labels for gender, something else I wanted to touch on is sometimes when you add data in a new variable, it will automatically just say under this measure column unknown, or if you click on it, it might automatically go to scale like it just did. So something to keep in mind here, this is not necessarily the most sometimes it will automatically, or sometimes you're dealing with a lot of different scale variables, but specifically with categorical variables, you want to be sure to define this for SPSS, especially later with some of our validation rules. SPSS needs to know what type of measure it is for you to be able to set a certain validation rule. And like I said, that will make a little bit more sense later. But in case you're unaware, scale variables are kind of what they sound like. They're on a continuous scale. So basically, it makes sense that our test scores are all scaled variables. It's going from, in general, 0 to 100. lower values mean like have a quantitative meaning compared to higher values. Like we have a way to interpret that kind of continuous increase in like numbers. Like that means something to us. Whereas for categorical variables, we have to think about this. So I had this set to ordinal, I think, as an example, but these are both nominal. So ID and gender are both nominal in this case. So nominal just means that it's a, categorical variable where the different values have no real interpretable meaning. So basically, participant 1 and participant 2, there's no real way to interpret the difference, but it's just a number we've assigned to them. It's not a continuous scale, but it also is not saying like 1 is greater than 2. Same thing with gender. We're assigning numbers to the different categories, but those numbers don't have any interpretable meaning. We just need those numbers for the sake of, having a number assigned to a specific category, because that's how we analyze the data. We don't analyze the data with text entry or anything like that. So any sort of, which in that case would be called like a string variable. So here we have like numeric. There are also different types where you have string, which is like text. So we don't analyze data that way. For analysis, we need these like numerical categories, but the actual numbers don't have any different meanings, as in one's greater than the other. So there's no quantitative interpretation there. So the other option that I had pulled up was ordinal, and this doesn't apply to gender. I'm just showing you can see like the difference. Basically, ordinal is where there are categories involved, but the numbers do actually mean something in terms of the quantitative interpretation. Say if you're dealing with sizes, so like small, medium, large, like those have, like those different categories do have an interpretable meaning in terms of like size. So small would be the smallest size, obviously. So like 1 could be interpreted as the smallest, where then 2 is, bigger, 3 is bigger, so on and so forth. So essentially there's some sort of rank order. So some categories, like maybe income, if you have it broken up into categories like, oh, someone makes less than $50,000 a year, is that category maybe assigning it a 1 versus the 5 category being like, oh, I make more than $150,000 a year. Like those have a quantitative interpretation in terms of rank order. So the first category meaning you make less money than someone who's in category 5 who makes more money. So hopefully that makes sense. So we're not using any ordinal variables in this case. So we have our ID and gender, which are both nominal, and then we have all scale variables. I don't have any data in these, but I'm just labeling them for the sake of it. Okay, so you'll need to have your measures defined just for a later step. So I wanted to be sure to explain that. Now, after you have your 5 variables, I ask that you just add a 6th variable. I labeled it as test 4 as an example, but it can be something different. You just need to add an additional variable, and for each of the 10 cases, fill out the data for that variable. So, moving on, this was all related to lesson 7. So I'm just moving on to the next lesson. So yeah, just make sure you name that additional variable that you add in. Okay, so for the next lesson, lesson 8, I just want to go through like copying and pasting. It's really just for practice. There's no way that I can actually verify that you did this, but I just wanted to let you know that you can use, keyboard shortcuts in here, like Control-C, V, Control-Z for undo, specifically for the undo button. Sometimes you're working in the data, so maybe you accidentally delete something, or you accidentally overwrite something, like I'm on a certain cell and then I accidentally put something in and I'm like, oh my god, what did I have there before, right? So all I would need to do is keyboard shortcut to undo, so Control Z or Command C, depending on your keyboard, and that value was added back. So I want to show you how to do that. Copying and pasting, for example, is very similar. So I copied this row and say I want to bring it over maybe to Excel. I don't know what I have over here. Oh, yeah, I think I've already done this just to sample it. Yeah, so you can paste it right in there. You know, I had added this variable column, so say I wanted that to line up, so I would just go down one cell and yeah. So you can copy and paste into an Excel file or somewhere else if you need to very easily. But yeah, nothing's graded here. Just wanted to demonstrate that you can use your keyboard shortcuts here. Okay, lesson 9. So this is going to be related to creating a PDF export. So sometimes, let's see if I have my output file somewhere I can show you. Okay, 1 second. Okay, I just created a new output file. We have nothing in here yet. So for example, maybe something we have to do later is turn on our validation rules. So this is jumping ahead just a little bit, but I'll show it again. So for example, turning on my data validation rules. So data validation, load predefined rules. This will come up. I'm going to hit OK. And this is just applying the dictionary of pre-loaded validation rules. Okay, so now we have something in our output file. But sometimes, again, you're going to be, whenever you're working with output files, sometimes you have like so many output tables of different results of analyses you did. You have graphs, you have all sorts of things. Sometimes maybe you need to be able to open said file maybe on a computer that doesn't have SPSS, or you just need to be able to open it without having access to SPSS, if that makes sense. So, because if you're on a different computer that doesn't have SPSS, you then can't open any of these SPSS files. Like those computers won't be able to read it. So maybe for your output tables with, you know, important results that you're going to be writing up, or graphs, whatever it may be, you need to be able to open it and view that output wherever. So you need to, you know, create a PDF version that can be read anywhere. So first, maybe I'll go back a little bit and show you just saving. So I've already saved this file, but this will be an important part of your assignment just to make sure you have your initial data set, but then any updates you make to it based on going through the rest of the assignment. So all you have to do is go to File and Save As. I've already saved this, but you know, find a good path that works for you. I have definitely been guilty of, you know, wherever whenever you click Save As, wherever it automatically takes you. I've hit save before, and then sometimes it's hard to find based on the location or path that like kind of was auto picked for you. So I have this saved in the correct folder. I called this lesson 7. I already have it saved, so I'm not going to hit save again because it's going to give me, you know, do you want to replace this file? But then something to note here is these different file types. So anytime you're saving a data set, that's going to be what's called a SAV file. So just by that alone, I know it's a data file. Whereas the output file is a different file type. It's an SPV file. And so you know that those are SPS specific, and you can tell whether it's a data file, output file, syntax file, all of that. So this is exactly what it needs to be right now, SPSS statistics SAV file. So just make sure that's selected. And again, I'm not going to hit save again, but that's how you'll save that. Similar with your output, so just have this open, hit save as. I haven't saved this yet since I just opened a new one. But I have a different version of it saved, but we can go ahead and overwrite it. So yeah, I would recommend, putting this qualifier here that it's an output, just so you can easily tell which one is which. Make sure you upload the correct ones, because while I know that .spv means an output file, maybe that is not the most obvious thing when you're starting out working in SPSS. So it's very easy, like I said, just to add this output addition. That way, because it will let you save it as just lesson 7, even if you have the data file, just because they're different file types, it will let you save them with the same name. But just so you know which one is which, and make sure you upload the correct ones, I recommend adding that. And again, there's some different file types here, but we want an SPV file. So again, I don't need to save this, so I'm just hitting cancel. Okay, so I'm going to save this and just replace the old one I have. They're the same. Okay, so now if I wanted to export this as a PDF, as I was discussing, sometimes you want a readable file regardless of what software is downloaded on a computer. So what you would do is go to File. So while you have the output open, you go to File, Export. Automatically already has PDF selected for me because I've done this before, but under Type, you just want to make sure PDF is selected and hit OK. After that, it doesn't do anything. Obviously, it's going to save in the same folder or path, whatever location you save the original SPV file. It's going to automatically export your PDF there as well. So I have that location here. So now I can just open this, and now I will be able to open this anywhere and just see, again, nothing of interest right now, but typically you would have some output tables or something that you'd be able to reference without opening SPSS, which is really helpful. Also for printing, if you ever need to do that. Okay, so that was exporting to PDF. And so for this, you will also upload that PDF version of your output, if I didn't already say that, but it's also listed in the assignment details. Okay, so now what we want to do is just practice exporting our data set to another program and importing from another program into SPSS. So sometimes you need to do both. Sometimes you have an Excel file for whatever reason, you have an Excel data file, and you want to import that automatically into SPSS. And then sometimes you have an SPSS file that you need to work in somewhere else for whatever reason. So in terms of exporting our data set into another program, it is pretty simple, very similar process. You're going to go to File, Export, and then right here, Excel is an option. So I'm going to save, and we're going to go, so it called it the same thing, which is fine. It's the same data set. It's just an Excel file, and I'm going to open that up just to show. So this is what I got. Actually, I think this was an older version of this test file. So Okay, so I'm just going to open this up and see what we have. Yeah, here I have a bunch of, I didn't have any data here, so it makes sense that there's nothing there. But yeah, it automatically loaded, even though SPSS has its own like protected variable row. You know, because we exported into Excel, it knows that that's just gonna be the new like row 1 in Excel. Okay, so you'll also upload this for me just so I can confirm that you did export our data file into Excel correctly. But then the next step, so for this next one, you will just need your own small like Excel file. So I just, you know, have something random here. And I want to create an SPSS file with this data. So how do I do that? So coming over here, I already have this open, but it's going to create a new data set for me. So if you exited out of this and started scratch from SPSS, you could do the same thing. But for now, I'm going to go to File, Import Data, select Excel. I have an example here. That's what it's called. And I'm just using the first sheet. I have a few different sheets in there. You know, read variable names from the first row of data. That's exactly what we want. Because again, in Excel, typically you use row 1 for the variable names, but SPSS, it's not included in the actual like, you know, row 1 here is just like your first case. So I'm going to hit OK. And now automatically I have a new data set with my variables already up here and then all of my data imported over. So what you're going to need to do here is then save as, and says, you can name it whatever you want, Excel import. And then you're going to upload this just to show me that you were able to do this. Going back to our lesson 7 data. So for this last part, we're going to validate our data set. So sometimes you need, especially with larger data sets, whatever it may be, these validation steps can help catch problems before you get to analysis. So for example, checking for any sort of invalid. So for example, maybe if I had a 2 here, and that's not relevant to like the values that I am using, but maybe a 2 was accidentally entered somewhere, whatever it may be. So just add maybe an additional case here for an example. So what will happen is I turned on our validation rules earlier. So just loading the predefined rules from the SPSS library. So I'll go through that again. We're going to go to Data, down to Validation, Load Predefined Rules. Hit OK. And then you can see in your output that it's applying the dictionary. And then we also have a lot of other stuff from our export now. Export, import. So a lot more there. But then after that, we're going to go back to data, validation, validate data. So what we need to do here, I'm going to reset this. So we need to define what is our case identifier, which again is like just how we know how we're sorting our different cases, and we know that the data in that row corresponds with that specific case. All of these other variables will be analysis variables. So I'll load them in here. You can also do multiple at once if you need to. So put those in there, and then go over to single variable rules. So for example, I have gender selected right here, and the rule we would like to apply is the 0-1 dichotomy rule. So check that. And basically, so again, we loaded our predefined rules. So basically, I didn't have to add in this rule myself or tell SPSS that this is a rule. It's a very common, way to code for dichotomous variables that have like 2 categories, or 0, 1, or a 1 to 2, even depending on what data set. So That's what loading those predefined rules does, is that it just ensures that you have some, general rules to use. Another rule that we could use is the 0 to 100 for our test scores, for example. So we can apply those. I don't think I have anything there. So in that the last test score variable, I never added anything in there, but so just take that off. So we have data in there for all of these, and here we have and already it tells us that our minimum and maximum value is 0 to 2. So already there's a problem, which we knew. I added that too. And essentially there are no categories that we have defined, and we're saying we only have these two. Therefore, it's going to tell us that we have one that, it's going to raise a flag to us that there's a problem in the data before you go to analysis, that maybe it was a typo or miscoded somehow. So it's going to draw our attention to, we need to go fix that. So hit OK. So that's exactly what this output is telling me, is that, and again, test score 4, I never put any data, and it's telling us we're missing data here. And then it's telling us here we have a violation to our 0, 1. So while there should only be 0s and 1s in this gender variable, there is a violation. And it tells us who the participant ID is. So that's also why we defined the ID variable as our case identifier. It can tell us exactly who violates the rule. Now for you guys, since I added in that data, just to show what it would look like if something was wrong with the data. So when you do that, it's probably not going to look like this. What it will look like if we do that again, when nothing is wrong. Validate data. We just hit OK again. And yeah, this time it's still telling us we have some missing data. Technically, there's a variable here, so it's just like, hey, you have missing data here. But other than that, there are no violations based on the rules that we set. So you will need to upload this output that shows that you, validated this data. Just show me this output by uploading the So that's what you'll need to do. That was the last part. So again, for that last part with the data validation, you'll be uploading your output just to show me, the validation output of your data, which again might look closer to this in terms of not having any violations, or if you, put in just random values for gender, it'll show up with some violations, and that's fine. But just showing me this output to show me you went through the process to do the data validation. Okay. Okay, so just as a reminder, this lab assignment details everything I've talked about, showing you in, I've showed you in detail how to navigate across SPSS and, giving you some information about it, but this is going to walk you through it as well. And then down here, again, just as a reminder, you have 5 file uploads in order to get full points for the assignment. So you're going to have your lesson 7 data file, so the SAV file. You're going to have your PDF output file, so there might not be much of anything in the output file at this point when you do the PDF export, and that's totally fine, but I just want confirmation that you exported to PDF. Then you're going to show your second data file, the file you import from Excel. So again, for that, you just need to create a small Excel file and then save that file, open SPSS, and import data from Excel, and then upload that Excel file just so I know that you did that successfully. Then you need to upload the Excel workbook, so the file that you export from SPSS into Excel. So you are going to have lesson 7 data set open and export to Excel, and then show me upload the Excel version of that document so I can verify that you did that. And then finally, your final SPSS output file showing, just being sure it includes the validation output, just so I can see that you went through the steps to validate the data, even if there are no violations or missing data or anything like that, just to show that you went through the steps. Okay, as a reminder, I have office hours from 4 to 5 on Tuesdays and Thursdays virtually, and I have my Zoom link in the syllabus, so you can always access it there. I can go back there right now just to show you where it is. It's right here for you to access whenever you need it. I don't know why you would access it other than office hours, but it's always here for you to save. I won't be there always, but I'll be there on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 5. All right, so as a reminder, I have office hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 5. I hold them virtually. My Zoom link is in the syllabus over here, so it's here for you to access when you need it. But yeah, if you have any questions about the assignment, I set the assignment for file uploads, so you should have no issues uploading the 5 different files you need to do for full points. But let me know if you have any issues. And yeah, I hope you guys, have had a great weekend, hopefully a long weekend, and just reach out if you have any questions.